Hi, everybody. It is Jenna Lemire here, and this is episode 2 of Jenna's autism journey, I think is what I entitled it. Anyway, so I have tried so many ways to collect all of this information to be able to speak about, but it is not one of my strengths. And so I just figured, why not just take you on the same journey that I went through and show you how I sort of fumbled through this as an autistic person. Um, and instead of trying to make it this big like production that and like as if I know how to do that stuff, which I don't, like I'm an intuitive and an artist, and this kind of thing is that I'm about to show you. You'll see how I had to come to this. Anyway, so join me as I show you how I came to find out that I was autistic. And I'm going to do that by some screen shares. So here we go. I'm going to attempt to do this. Okay, here we go. Here's my desktop. I don't need that anymore. And let's make me just a little bit bigger here if I can. Boom. All right. Hi in the square. All right. So first I want to tell you, it was from TikTok. On TikTok, and I found this so that you can see this woman here. Blow it up. Her name is Alexandra Pearson, and she was doing videos about being autistic. And I was so naive at the time. I had no idea. I just thought that there was a look to autism. I thought that I was very naive. And so she sort of shattered my idea and then was talking about some tests that she took. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, that's really interesting. I'm going to look into this a little further. So then I went ahead and just did my good old Google test for autism women. And that brought me to these tests here. I took all these here, boop, boop, boop. And on all three, I tested very strongly as being autistic. And it was like, wait, what? I kind of thought maybe because it's a spectrum, I'd be somewhere on there. Turns out quite autistic according to those tests. So then my entire world started to be like, okay, well, this is really interesting. And then I went to try to find a little bit more kind of information. And I'm super good at watching YouTube videos. That is how it works for me. And I figure the most sciencey way that it can make sense for me tends to be through TED Talks. So then I went ahead and looked up some people. I'll talk about her later. But these TED Talks here, and this was a good one too, I got a lot of information because it is like women, autistic women, this is not out, you guys. This is not out. It is still, so many people in the psychology world are dismissing because there's not research done on women, autistic women. Anyway, so you'll learn that too as you do your own investigation, which I encourage you to do. Don't take my word for it. I'm just a vessel expressing my journey with you, and if I can help you in any way or help save you some time or just give you more love in any way, then that's what my goal is. So I watched these and they were helpful. And then I want to go over a little bit about the DSM-5 is what that's called. That's where the actual diagnosis is made, and people are always curious, how did I do it? Oh, and now I'd like to also say that even though I'm using, obviously this is some other people here, Lord and Jones from 2012, I want to state that I am doing this like a reaction video, and in no way I'm trying to claim any of this stuff. This is just sort of an investigation of all the stuff that you guys can find for free on the internet yourselves. So this is the difference between the DSM-4 and the DSM-5, and it's only been very recent that these changes have been put into place. And if you'll notice, it used to have a big circle in social impairment, but that again was more so in the more traditional autism that you find in boys and men. women and girls show up very differently. And so they have now taken that part out and brought these more together as far as how they diagnose for autism nowadays. So I just wanted to point out that, again, I'm not very sciencey and those kind of things don't work for me super well. Neither will this, but maybe it'll help you. So when it comes to my personal diagnosis, I am level 1 down here, which means without supports in place, deficits in social communication cause noticeable impairments. And you may not see, I'm very public. I'm very, I don't really show a lot of the deficits that I have. Most of that is found because I mask all day long. So the people that understand my deficits are those who are the closest with me. And I don't let people get very close to me because I've known that I have these things, right? So keeping very tight friends is really hard for me. I'm more arm's length and I can do great and there's a lot of people that really feel close to me. I let people into my world to a certain degree. I haven't let people in from here to there, and now I am. I'm going to just unload all of my, I'm unmasking and letting all my deficits show here in a minute, which you'll see in a second. So you might think, well, how is this really impairing you, Jenna? You've got this, you're doing well in life. You're holding a job. You have a partner. You've got all this stuff. Yeah, and if I didn't have a partner right now, I would be possibly even at different levels. Which is important for me to talk about codependency in the future too, because, oh my God, being in this world of like communication styles, attachment styles, spirituality, all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of bitterness in just even the words codependency. But if you can start looking at codependency through the lens of autism, a lot of us, I believe, are desperately searching for a support person in our lives, not because there's something wrong with our attachment style or that something that unhealthy about us. It's something about the way our brain is, our operating system is wired, that it's a survival mechanism to actually have an aid or support person or advocate in our lives. And so that can show up as, oh, you're just codependent, you're a terrible empath that needs to somehow be all different in your life. And it's like, I think it's very damaging. And so once you find out, hey, you know what? I'm autistic. And so I'm going to give myself a break every time I hear someone say something negative about codependency, or I'm going to at least look at it a little differently. Okay, so there's that. And then this one here is sort of breaking down all of those words and why, or segments. Why I want to talk about this one is because notice that it says here stereotyped or repetitive behaviors, and then there's instance on sameness, inflexibility, adherence to routines. So one, it could be like and then highly restricted. Okay, here we go. Highly restricted and fixated interest. So you can like have zero interest in something where they'll be like, I can't even, my brain just shuts off, but then you have hyper focus in another like special interest. And in the past, they've kind of only looked at one part of it, one or the other. And it's like, no, in some of these areas, if they're saying hypo, then it's hyper, or it's like kind of both on the extremes, like this one here, hyper or hyposensory reactivity or interest. So I think it's really important to know that it can be just basically looking at extremes. So if you find a flow chart and there's one that is saying something, we're like, oh, I'm not that at all. But then you look and like way on the other side, you're like, I'm not that, but I'm so the opposite of that in a big way. That might also be an indicator. And luckily they are starting to validate that kind of stuff. Like nonverbal communication has been another one that is more in what we typically recognize in a more traditional diagnosis of autism. But hyper communication or talking like too much is also another thing that tends to present, especially in women. So And then you guys can just read all that rest on your own or whatever too. And then how they kind of come to it are, make this a little bigger. I never did PowerPoints or that kind of stuff. This is literally the closest thing I've ever done to a PowerPoint, you guys. So please bear with me. It's probably comical to those that know how to do this kind of stuff a lot easier than I do. I'm autistic and blanks. I have blanks on that kind of stuff. If someone tries to teach me a new like app or program, I'm like, I just don't. I shut down completely. Anyway, so basically total of 6+ deficits across 3 areas of impairment is how they come to these diagnoses or whatever. And then you need to have difficulties presenting before the age of 3. So I had to really go back in my life, and I met with some people that I've known my whole life, and you know, a lot of my family has passed on. But there was definitely enough, and my therapist knew actually all of my family members from before, and so she luckily had all of this, and it was so great because when I reached out to her, there was so much evidence, and this is such a new way of looking at autism that she luckily had caught up on her continuing education and felt very comfortable and understood that I had been not missed, but underdiagnosed just because, you know, we didn't know at the time. So, so that my diagnosis actually came a lot easier because most people, if you don't already have an established 15-year relationship with your therapist, will need to go and have like a psych exam. Sometimes there's several waiting months to get into something like that, and they can be quite expensive. So I have to admit that I lucked out in getting an actual medical diagnosis on my end. And if you take a long time having to get yours, I have so much love and respect for you. And please don't let not having a diagnosis stop you from feeling validated if you're assuming that you might be on the spectrum. And then this one here, let's see. Yeah, it's just breaking down a little bit further some of that pie chart earlier. And this is kind of the pointing out when it comes to language, it's either excessive or delayed, right? And so before it might have just been delayed and now it can be excessive. And I had a little bit of both. I had some speech issues really early on, a lot of shyness, and almost like didn't talk at all. But then was when it was something interesting, I just couldn't shut up. Just like today. And then the comorbid symptoms, most people that are autistic, usually these, especially women, have come in from other things like ADHD, anxiety disorders. I don't have my glasses. Anyway, so I just want you guys to know that there are more things that kind of point to it than that bring someone in. Okay, and then, so I was able to do all of that kind of more researchy stuff and then got back into finding out more. Oh, I know what I was going to say. And then, so after the researchy stuff, I want to give you an idea here, because if you notice, 178, I have written this many things to my therapist here. Okay. So I definitely have more than 6. And I definitely have shown in every one of those how it is impairing my life. And I was able to get 178 of them, which I plan on going over in future videos so that you guys can tell, kind of compare if your autism looks a little bit like mine. And I'm going to give lots and lots of examples. So for today, I think I'll just leave you also with 3 of my very favorite people so far. One has been Purple Ella. She does such a great job and has an amazing channel and very informative and likable. And then Yo Sam Sam is also one that does a great job with her channel. Very, very informative, super validating. And then if you are a little younger, I really like Chloe Hayden. She used to go by Princess Aspian, and she just reminds me a lot of like an adorable little Bjork. I just love her and want to like hug her. I don't know if she's a hugger, but I want to hug her. Anyway, I want to hug all of them. I absolutely, you know, in an energetic way at least. They've been so helpful, and there's so many more. I also encourage, just the algorithms brought those to me, and I took them at and ran with it. But please, if your algorithms are not giving you minorities, people of color, I encourage you to, you know, our world is a spectrum, and please get how that shows up in everybody as you are going down the rabbit hole. So there we go. I love you guys. I'm gonna try and go back on, how do I get back? Oh, I need to stop share, I'll bet. Stop share. Ah, I'm back. Okay, you guys. So that was a little bit rambly, and that's okay, because if I don't stop now and just put this up, I'm never going to, and I will retake this a million times. So hopefully that was informative and at least gives you an idea of like the process or like the steps in what it took for me to kind of get to where I am talking right now. In the next few videos, I imagine I will kind of break down some of those like 178. And since I even wrote that down, I think I have like 5 more now in a notebook of like, oh yeah, there's this too. So I'm just going to share those in little segments as we go, because they can be broken down. Oh man, you guys, this is a lot. This is not how I usually present information. I'm so much better on just being in the now moment, doing live stuff, not beating myself up if I just slip in a word. Anytime I have to like prepare for something and have it like a PowerPoint and have details, it's just like, where is that part of my brain? Seriously. So thank you for letting me fumble through this with you. And please follow me, like me, share me if it feels good for you. And we'll keep on the journey. I'll see you for episode 3 very shortly. Much love, you guys. Bye.